haven't made one of these for a while. I got burnt out. I just didn't want to make the videos anymore, and because I wasn't monetizing, I didn't feel a need to make the videos anymore. So I stopped making for what I thought would be a little while, but then COVID happened. And then by the time I felt like leaving the house casually again, vaccinations and everything were in effect, and the thrift store quality around here just plummeted, at least in terms of toy selection. Housewares, there was one day I went to the thrift store, I had a list of things that I wanted, and I actually found them, even though some of them were rather esoteric. So housewares are great, and then there's a craft thrift store in Nashville now that's like about half an hour, 40 minutes away. So a friend and I go in that friend's Prius a couple times a year, so you know, we're being good for the environment. And I can just come home with loads of cloth then. Because that's the other thing that the last few years, in addition to keeping me away from thrift dolls, I have just been shifting more into sewing. I have sewn literally hundreds of things over the last few years. And I've also gotten into the whole, not exactly KonMari, but figuring out the things that I have just because they seem cool to have, that I can let them go with no problem, and being able to donate a lot of my cloth to the craft thrift store meant I didn't feel like the cloth was going out to the wilds or wouldn't be appreciated by anyone. I know it doesn't really matter. Once it's not mine anymore, it doesn't matter what happens to it. Anyway, so I was able to get rid of a lot of cloth, and I was able to make stuff with a lot of cloth, and I have been sewing, and I will continue to sew, and I like sewing at this point. Most of my wardrobe is handmade, not something I did on purpose, just something I ended up with over the last few years of being trapped at home. And then when I wasn't trapped at home anymore, the thrift stores were disappointing. So, I did thrift early last year. I got an American Girl from the thrift store for like $4. And I don't generally like American Girl dolls. I was not of the generation that grew up with them. With all due respect to people who love American Girl, I do not like the normal American Girl head sculpt. This doll has the Josefina sculpt, which I like. And again, I'm amused because the camera is picking her face up as a face. Missed that. Anyway, so when I saw this doll with a slightly different head sculpt, I thought, alright, I will get this. Also partly because I hadn't thrifted a doll for years at that point. Now, kind people over the last few years have sent me boxes of dolls, which thank you immensely. I thought about making box opening videos. I did some, but mostly I didn't. And I would get into those boxes and I would take out the dolls or the parts to make the most obvious combinations for dolls, and then all the other parts kind of went into the body part bins. And the last month or so, I have been going through those bins and challenging myself to put together more unusual dolls, which actually I hadn't planned to talk about in this video, so I don't have any with me, but like this guy here. Yeah, the camera doesn't recognize that as a face, and I'm not surprised. This is an older gymnast style Mycene guy, Ken body, and one of the heads from an extra pet. And I painted the body and I adapted the head. This Ken body has just a cut joint for the neck, which means the Ken heads could originally only rotate, no tilt. So I wasn't worried about getting tilt, only rotation on this head. There's the end of a chapstick tube, lip balm. It wasn't chapstick brand, it was probably it was Blistex. It was from this holiday Blistex pack I got. It was blueberry. There's a blueberry lip balm end cemented into here with the twist. and the body is spray painted white, and this is just a silly thing that I was able to make because I had the parts and I looked at them with a fresh eye and thought, you know what, I'm going to do something a little more complex than I normally have been doing for the last few years. So I'm not completely back into dolls like it used to be, again because I won't be going to the thrift stores to constantly replenish my stuff, and the things I have in boxes I have had in the boxes for years, so it just takes every once in a while have a fresh eye to look at it. Maybe I'll share stuff like that on this if I start making more videos, I don't know. I mean, right now there is a doll body downstairs that I'm slowly airbrushing. It is a bizarre hybrid, another animal doll with a head that was never meant to be on a body. So once that's done, I'll definitely post it on Instagram. Maybe I'll talk about it in the video. I have a box full of dolls that I've been thinking about doing stuff with for years. Mostly it's reroots. I still have my box full of bodies. It's down here. It's a big box of bodies. Don't have as many heads as I used to have, but I have a lot of heads still. It's just a question of what I want to do with them to make them more interesting or not. So, backtracking to what I meant to talk about. Part of the reason that I think the toy selection at the thrift stores has plummeted in the last few years in the Nashville area is because we have a McKay's. McKay's is a regional chain. It's like, I think they're mostly in the Carolinas and into Nashville. It's a used media store, which means it started as books and music and movies and video games, and then video game consoles and board games and instruments, and it just added more and more stuff, including a lot of toys. Mostly they are pop culture toys, like there's a bin of Funko Pops, but also they do dolls. So because the stuff in the store is brought in by people, it varies. It's not exactly a thrift store because they buy the stuff from you. They don't give you much, especially if you take cash. If you take store credit, you can get a little more. So we went in there last week, and I had a few things that I ended up taking store credit for. So I let the child go wild picking out. He loves like old computer stuff, not even necessarily that he can use. Like he bought a Commodore 64 cartridge, you know, stuff like that. So I let him pretty much choose whatever he wanted, and I got dolls. Now, I did the usual thing I do. I went there and I just picked out everything that caught my eye, but then I actually sat down and thought about, do I actually want it or not? One of the first things that I picked up, one of the things I was hoping to find when I went in there, was I have now accepted LOL OMGs as a valid doll format. So I was hoping to find cheap LOL OMGs, because their contemporary fashion I don't care for as much, but like making cute little clothes for them, I love doing that now. So this Virtuelle, actually I did buy this new in box. This was on super clearance for some reason for like $12.50. I was like, okay, for $12.50 I will try out an LOL OMG. And once I got her out of her super contemporary, trendy, fashionable clothes, I like her. So I got a couple other OMGs from friends who had bought them for the clothes and accessories and didn't want the bodies and the dolls, and it's like, I will take them. And so this is the first time I've gone to McKay's since finding them acceptable. And they did have some. They range from one nude for $3 through another nude for $5, a doll wearing one piece of clothing for $6, a doll wearing a little more clothing for $8, a doll wearing more clothing for $9 or $10. So I stuck to the $3 end, and I got this Candylicious, which I have her holding her hair like this. Whoever had owned her before knew enough about doll hair that they were able to take the hair out of the original twists and then straighten the hair. However, in the process of getting the doll hair the way they wanted, they also had brushed the back out so much that the thatch was just not parted at all, or the part wasn't thatched at all. You know what I mean. So I spent a little while with a heavy needle a couple days ago, just using the needle to pick hair out and cross it back over where it should be. So now she has, it's not the prettiest thing, but she does have her full part back. So I will probably put her hair into, what do they call them, pigtails, bunches. I grew up, my mom called them buffies after the little girl on Family Affair. So I wanted to call them buffies, but I know most of the world doesn't call them buffies. I can never remember what everyone calls them. But I will put her hair up on either side of her head, and then I will make my style of clothes for her. So that was the first thing, like I said, I was looking for, was just any OMG. There were others with worse hair. I will say another thing is the way the toys are packaged in McKay's is they are generally put in baggies, staple at the top, so you can't really get in and dig around. Like, I didn't know her hair was completely unthatched in the back till I got home and opened her up. But it's something I can fix. It's tedious, but not a problem. So I have that. And then I poked around a little more and I found Junior High, Rainbow High Crystal. This is the only Rainbow High, Junior High, doll hair stuck to her hair, that I really kind of wanted because I love her hair. The little purple puffs are so cute. And also because these are supposed to be younger characters, the makeup is not as strong as the older dolls. Of course, I would really like them if they had flat feet instead of heels because they are kids. But she was originally wearing one of the Rainbow Vision dresses. It's obviously way too big for her, but this is just a little something fun I might play around with at some point since I have it, but I wasn't buying it for the dresses, buying it for the doll. And then I dug around a while more. Like I said, the selection of McKay's can vary. I have been in there when there's like 5 Barbies and 2 of them, their heads aren't connected right. But this one, they had a lot of stuff, and I dug and dug and dug, and I found a Naturalistas with the larger curl hair. And it's like, oh, that's cool. I would like to have a Naturalistas. This is not my top list of Naturalistas, but for a cheaper secondhand Naturalistas, she'll do. But then I moved a little more dolls, and I found Leah, who was the Naturalistas that I did actually want because, again, the hair is so fantastic. And this one actually, oh, she still has her shoes. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but she still has a hairnet. I was discussing this with some of my doll friends. Apparently, not all Leahs have hairnets, but some do, and this one did. And whoever owned her before took her out of the box and donated her, I guess. Are you recognizing a face? Video? Yes, we're recognizing a face. So right now I have her hair in the hairnet for protection, and I will probably leave her on her original body because even though there is very little articulation, I do like having some body variety. I am sorely tempted to repaint her, at least paint over the eyes so they are possibly side glance, but definitely dark brown because I like dark brown eyes. I'm not faulting the toy companies for not giving many dolls dark brown eyes because I know they might probably think that dark brown just isn't that dynamic in the box, but I like a dark brown eye. So the least I will do is paint over her eyes as they are. An intermediate plan might be to paint over them so they become side glance because I also like a side glance doll. The more extreme plan is to wipe the paint off completely and repaint her like a Momoko, because if you can't think of any other way to paint a doll than painting the face to copy Momoko's paint, usually works out pretty cute. And then I dug around a little more, and the last doll I thought that I had settled on was a Disney Animators mini Snow White. I also saw a Belle, but again, like I said in that sidetrack earlier about letting cloth go, that I didn't mention is letting stuff go also has helped me to figure out what I want to bring in, which is not as much as it used to be. At one point I would have probably come back from this place, especially knowing that I would be getting stuff on credit, trading credit, so it's as good as free. I would have just come up with an armload of dolls, multiple OMGs, both of these little mini animator dolls that I found, more random dolls, but I stepped back and said, I actually don't want all of these. It's just these few are what I've been looking for. So I'm just going to get them and not all the others. So yeah, I did not get the Belle mini animator doll, but I got the Snow White, and it will be interesting to first see if I have any clothes that fit her at all. I don't like making clothes for really small dolls, but I'm getting a little more used to it because I'm acquiring more really small dolls who need clothes. And I can do it if I have to. So I had these 4 dolls. And I had gone through all of the fashion doll section and a lot of the action figure section and the vinyl figures section, and it's like, alright, I've gone through all of the dolls. This is what I want. I'm set with these. And then I remembered that there's another section in this McKay's with toys that's over with the children's books. Now there are some bins that have like kids toys, like Little People, or if they ever had a Calico Critter or Honeybee Acres, it would probably be there, or I've seen My Little Pony and My Little Pony knockoffs there. But in the top of this section, on top of all the bookcases, that's where they put the boxed Barbies. And most of them are 90s collector dolls, and most of them are things that I want nothing to do with. And that was the case that day. But the reason I'm discussing this section is because as soon as I walked over, I saw full-size Disney animator Snow White. I am not a Disney person at all, never have been. I grew up in that weird time in the 80s when Disney really wasn't much of anything, and it's just, the characters mean nothing to me, but the Disney animator dolls are so cute. You know, I'm not even usually into cute dolls, but they are so cute. So she was $5. It's just without thinking, I said, no, I'm getting this. I'm not second guessing myself and letting talk myself out of that. So basically the last few days she's been on my desk holding the small version of herself because that amuses me. So the other Disney animator doll I still had, because I've had some come and go, was an Ariel. But again, because the character means nothing to me, I cut off her hair, I gave her a wig, and I painted her eyes brown. And I think you will find this very amusing to see these together. I'm not saying this is the same doll now, because they are looking in different directions. I'm trying to do things backwards on the camera. But it does amuse me how similar they are now. But, so now I need to brush a lot of hair. Not necessarily all the hair, because, again, these two have perfect hair. That is one nice thing about the fact that McKay's puts the dolls in baggies, is if they can survive the process of getting to the store, then they will survive being on the shelf pretty well. Crystal's hair was a little picked and pulled, but I was able to use a crochet hook, put it through the elastic, and pull the hair back through the elastic where it needed to be. So, yeah, I actually bought some dolls. And, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be back into making doll videos like this with any frequency. I have sporadically started, like I said, customizing dolls again, And if you follow my Instagram, you know that I've had like a couple weekends where I just sewed doll clothes the entire weekend. And I could talk about that, I guess, in videos like this, and I could talk about dolls that I'm working in custom, maybe. So I don't know if I'm back, but I thought the least I could do is make this video to share what I did get. And I'll probably make another one where I find clothes for them, but I haven't decided about that yet. You'll know if it shows up on the channel, and I feel so goofy saying that. Alright, thank you, as always, for watching. I'll see you again sometime.